Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the shepherd of Black Sheep. Today, I want to go over an area of confusion for people because there's a lot of people who think whenever I make a video about narcissists, they'll say, well, you're wrong because my narcissist wasn't like that. My narcissist didn't do this, so you must be wrong. And the people who do that, they're misunderstanding a couple things. One thing they are misunderstanding is more than one thing can be true at the same time. Just because the narcissist in their life didn't do the specific behavior I'm talking about doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means their experience is different. There are many other people that can relate to the experiences that I'm talking about. And one of the reasons that they have this misconception also is they think all narcissists are exactly the same, and they're not. All narcissists can be of different levels of severity, and they can also be different types. And what are the different types of narcissists? Well, you can break it down into covert versus overt, right? So there's overt narcissists, and then there's covert narcissists, and then there's different subtypes from there. You can see a spiritual narcissist, a religious narcissist, a communal narcissist, a self-righteous narcissist, and you can keep on going on and on. But that's the breakdown. A malignant narcissist is another one. You could also see a covert malignant narcissist. You could see a covert spiritual narcissist, a covert self-righteous narcissist. There's all these different versions, and they're not all going to act exactly the same. That being said, many narcissists do sound very similar. When they're called out, many of them do say many of the same things, and they'll have the same temper tantrums, and they'll pout. But even then, the way they pout might be different as well. An overt narcissist, they might rage and get really angry. A covert narcissist, they're more likely to be passive aggressive, maybe give a silent treatment or stonewall. That's their tactic. And they're also more likely to guilt trip. But an overt narcissist can definitely do those same things too. And then besides all of this, the different kinds of narcissists, covert, overt, and the other subtypes, there's also different levels of severity to think about as well. There are severe narcissists, ones that have full-blown NPD that are pretty ridiculous and severe. And then even trickier in some cases are the ones that are less severe. And when I say severe and more severe or less severe, I'm talking about people that have a narcissistic operating system, not people that just aren't perfect and have some toxic behaviors. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But I do think there's a narcissistic operating system that their functioning brain is just different. And they can have less severe versions of that, and there's more severe versions of that. But ultimately, they're going to act like a narcissist in one way or the other. They're going to have the traits of narcissism. And again, there's many different combinations of traits that you can officially get NPD. But that's why I kind of agree with Christian, where diagnosing by the behaviors, sure, there are many different combinations, 256, if not more, to be exact. But the difference is that operating system. That is, to me, the big indicator. If you have that narcissistic operating system, because there can be people, and maybe they're a borderline, maybe they have another issue going on, but people can do some behaviors that are similar, but they don't have the narcissistic operating system. That the reason why they're doing them is going to be a little bit different. And again, it's difficult because you can't always tell what someone's intent is. You can't tell why they did it. But given enough time with somebody, then maybe you can see, okay, this is the pattern of their behavior. They consistently do this, or they consistently don't do that. They consistently lie. The patterns don't lie. Anyone can mess up once, but a pattern is a completely different story. But that narcissistic operating system, that's important to realize, because when you just look at the behaviors, yeah, I don't think it's the best way to go about it. But that narcissistic operating system, that tells you more. And when someone has that narcissistic operating system, what does that mean? Hey there, Jolly. What it means is You're going to have probably a certain level of grandiosity. You're going to have an expectation for admiration. You're going to need excessive admiration. You're going to be entitled. You're going to have a hypersensitivity to criticism, and you're probably going to have impaired empathy. Also, image is going to be very important to them. And whatever it is, they're going to be fueled by something. To me, that's what I look for when I see someone has a narcissistic operating system. I look at those things. Also, they're going to be very controlling as well. All narcissists, whether they do it overtly or covertly, there's going to be an element of control in there. I've never seen one that didn't have an element of a control, or at the very least, they wanted it, but they couldn't actually act it out. That's another thing that happens as well. But Jolly, how are you today? Last time I saw you, I was talking to my friend Kelly about autism, and we went over a lot of good stuff in that interview as well. But I wanted to go over these types and the different levels of severity because I think a lot of people get confused by this. They think, well, my narcissist wasn't this way. My narcissistic parent wasn't that way. So what Jared's talking about, it's just wrong. When in reality, there are different types, different levels of severity. And another thing, they have different personalities and different temperaments. Not all narcissists are going to have the same exact personality. They're going to have different personalities and they're going to have different temperaments. And again, that's on top of the other differences, whether it's covert versus overt, whether it's a spiritual narcissist, religious narcissist, or what are the other ones? We're not a cognitive one. There's the ones that are more physical in nature that its name is escaping me right now. But they're more physical in nature. But that's just another subtype, right? You can do that covertly or you can do that overtly. It doesn't really matter. But I'll look it up real quick for you all. Intellectual narcissists, what are they called? For some reason, the name's escaping me. Cerebral. So there's a cerebral narcissist and the one that has to deal with the physical. George, what's shaking over there? Yeah, that makes sense. Malignant are physical. Somatic. For some reason, those words were escaping me, but they're somatic and cerebral as well. And again, you can be a covert narcissist that's cerebral. You can be a covert narcissist that's somatic. All it means is that, so for the somatic narcissist that's into their body, how they're going to get excessive admiration for that is going to be a little more subtle usually. They might not be bombastic about it like a grandiose would, but they're going to do those things in a subtle way. But they're absolutely still there. Those traits are still there. And even on top of that, like I said, there's going to be the temperament differences and personality differences. And all of this is why they can look so different, even though the base traits are going to be very similar. And even then, a vulnerable narcissist will be a little bit different than a grandiose narcissist. And a vulnerable narcissist, for example, they think that is more like borderline now. And maybe the vulnerable narcissist, it's really just borderline. That's something they've thought about as well. But these are all the things to take into consideration. It's actually miraculous considering all the types of narcissists, the levels of severity, and the differences in personality and temperament. It's miraculous so many of them sound so similar because it actually helps the people that are trying to learn about narcissism. They're able to pick up on, wow, the person I was with, they said that. The person I was with, they said that same thing these other people have experience with. So that's something that is definitely a thing. And I think there's reasons for that. The part of the reasons are, I think they probably have similar abnormalities in the brain. That's one. Another reason that happens is when they all do what they can to avoid accountability and to get power control, to manage their image and narcissistic supply, they wind up doing similar things and saying similar things. And I think it's just they have a similar brain, and so they have similar wants and desires, and they wind up figuring out, okay, this is how it works. This is how I can get what I want. This is how I can avoid accountability. It's really interesting. But there's reasons why those behaviors are the same. But many times, though, like I said, it won't be exact. It can be a little bit different, which is important to keep in mind. But for some people, they want to think, no. And again, and some of this is people just don't realize more than one thing can be true at the same time. But Jolly and George, what has been going on with your week? What did you think about the interview with Kelly the other day? We spoke for a long time, and there was actually other things I even wanted to go over, but we actually didn't get a chance to. And one of the things I wanted to go over was the mental bandwidth, and how with people who are neurodivergent, they kind of run out of mental bandwidth. So I'm going to try to have her on maybe once a month or so. And it'll be more interactive next time, because we talked just her and I for the most part until the second half. But I asked Marcella from Beyond the Bruise. She's going to come in too. She's going to join us once a month as well. And you guys will have an opportunity to ask her questions too. I don't know if you remember her, but she agreed. The next person I'm going to ask to do that in a recurring role is, what's her face? My brain's not sharp today. Cece. I'm going to ask Cece to do it next. And hopefully she'll agree to do once a month. And I reached out to The Game Exposed, and she's going to come on the show too. That will be early October. Grace Stewart, I'm recording with her on Friday. We might talk a little bit First Amendment and just overall how politics is viewed in the narcissistic abuse space, which again, I was debating people on that today because Jimmy Kimmel got his job back, to which I don't really care. Like, I think it's good that he did, only because I want there to be consistency of free speech. All narcs gaslight and try to rewrite history. When caught, I've noticed. Correct. I would agree with that for the very most part. Yeah, Bear, my brain just wasn't functioning. Couldn't get blank. Sometimes when you're on the camera, your brain doesn't work as well anymore. Other times, I feel like it makes me sharper. But yeah, for the most part, they will do that. And like Cat Williams said, winners cannot let losers rewrite history. You can't let that happen. But that's one of their favorite pastimes. But so The Game Exposed, I got to look through her content though, because I'm not too familiar with what she talks about. And hopefully I'll find some good nuggets in there to go over with her. Jolly says, I'm not used to hearing other people with ASD, and that also had a narcissistic parent and how it affected them. Kelly's the person for you with that. Well, me too, for that matter. But both of us are. And she's got a unique experience. Like, in the beginning, I didn't realize she was, because she's more fluent with her words. And I didn't realize that women with autism could be more fluent like that. I thought they would be more awkward, but I was wrong about that. So she'll come on. It was great hearing you both talk about it. Yeah, because we're good friends, Kelly and I. So she's been on here a bunch of times before too. Bear says, in real life, my brain sometimes checks out too. Oh, for sure. And welcome, Bear. Glad to have you here. Oh, and I missed a Phil Bradley hoorah up there too. How could I have missed that? That's great. But the other thing was, I'm going to try to have a group of people that are recurring guests, like similar to how Joe Rogan has this group of comedians that come on. So I'll always be open to interviewing other people as well, but I'd like a good core of people. So I think Kelly could be one, Marcella could be one, Cece could be one. I also need a couple dudes in there. So I'm thinking maybe Christian. I'd like to get Christian in there. I think that would be pretty cool too. Because Christian, I mean, he almost interviews himself, but I think I'm able to get some good nuggets out of him. So I think that's interesting. I gotten a lot of clips out of him too, that's for sure. And other men, I'd be very curious what other men you would like me to talk to. I've reached out to Dr. Daniel Fox. I've reached out to Dr. Robert Plomin. I've reached out to a few others. Need some dudes, Jolly. I feel like I have more women than dudes on here. But then again, Dr. Salerno probably makes up for that because I've interviewed him so many times that, yeah, I've interviewed more women otherwise, but Dr. Salerno's a guy, of course. But Dr. Salerno, Christian, Dr. Simon, H.G. Tudor. Perhaps doing something like that with H.G. Tudor could be a good thing too, I think. I think that would be interesting. And maybe like a dating person of sorts. Is the game exposed? Does she talk about dating? I'm not sure. But anyway, but back to the other topic. So, of all the kinds of narcissists, covert versus overt, and then there's the cerebral, the somatic, spiritual, religious, self righteous, communal, all of that, they can be covert or overt in presentation. And then their personalities and temperament, they can all be different too. So overall, it can look different sometimes, even if the words sound similar. It can sometimes look a little bit different, but the core of that narcissistic operating system, that's what to pay attention to. George says, all about dating narcs. Oh, that's what her channel's about? Bear says, hey, buddy, what about the Soul Whisperer / Merlin Mafia? Are they the same person or are they two different people? But I'll check them out. Let's see. The Soul. Hey, Soul Sister. Maybe some political stuff on here too at some point. But remember, wizards have no political affiliations. Wizards only abide by their own code, which unfortunately makes everyone mad at him eventually. The Soul Whisperer. Oh, it wants to say the Spirit Whisperer, but the Soul Whisperer. There we are. Let's take a look here. Oh, they're pretty. Soul Whisperer Tarot. Is that who it is? Yaz. Yes, who it is. Yaz. So Yaz is coming on early October. I got another cutie coming on the show. I actually might be seeing her in person. Her name is the frick is her name? I should know it, but I never remember. Man. Jessica. That's her name. Jessica's her name. But she's cool. She's had an experience with. And who's Ben Rosenberg? Yeah, George. Who do you think I am over here? You think I can't get these names on the show? I reached out to her on Instagram and she talked to me. Again, I get most people. I don't get everybody, but I can get most now. Because I think even in the YouTube community, Dr. Salerno's interviews with me, they're fairly popular. So there's been a lot of views they get, and it helps me to be more well known. I mean, I was going to be on Mark Vicente's show the other day. Tomorrow, I was supposed to be, but it got postponed till November. So that'll be interesting too. Ben Rosenberg, I know that name. Who is that, Bear? Ben Rosenberg. Ben Rosenberg reality? I'll take a picture of the chat. That's right. That's the right answer, George, to never doubt me. I try not to doubt myself because mindset's a big thing. No, not tarot. Type in Merlin Mofo. Okay. Merlin M. Some of these people don't pop right up. People are hidden. They're hidden in the algorithm here. The Game of It, episode 1, Ben Rosenberg. Did you talk about AI? Is that what he does? Ancient AI in the prison matrix? Ben Rosenberg. I don't know. Difficult to find. Not type, not Tara. Type in Merlin Mofo Ben Rosenberg. Yeah, it doesn't want to come up. I should share the screen so we can look into it together. So let's see here. All right. So I'm going to look it up here. Let's see what we can find. Merlin Mofo Ben Rosenberg. Is this him? The guy on the top there, is that him? Is this guy? Episode 151, Ben Rosenberg, Expanding Reality. The Soul, and yes, the Prison Matrix. Okay. Yeah, so that should be doable. We can get him on. I got introduced to this goth dude the other day. There's this goth guy, Jesse something or other. That was fairly interesting as well. Not Jennifer McCready, but something else. Interesting. You see this guy that has like his face painted? I think he talks about things maybe even from a right of center view at this point. The Game of It. Okay. As long as it's the same person. That's the important part. That's the important part. But we'll be expanding our horizons over here. But Bear, what else is going on in your world? Any other interesting things going on? I could tell you about some of the things that have been going on with me. One of them was when I posted the clips of Dr. Salerno. There's been a lot of professionals even that have been very upset. They're like, Dr. Salerno said it was simple to find the abusive person versus the victim in a couples counseling session. Because Dr. Salerno says what you do is you look for who's collaborating and who's not. And a lot of people had a lot of different problems with that. Some people were saying, no, you need to look at the wheel of power because that is a better way to go. Or you guys don't realize that a victim might shut down and not collaborate. And it's like, dude, do you think we don't know that? Do you think we're just born yesterday? We don't know anything about abusive relationships. We don't know anything about personality disorders. We're just going to say, oh, yeah, we don't know the questions to ask. We don't know what we're doing. That's what they're acting like. And they're like, no, you guys are men, so you don't understand. I'm like, come on. And like I said, yes, there is more instances of women being victims of violence in that case, in like domestic disputes. Sure. But there are some people who just see everything through the gendered lens. And that bothers me. I just think the solutions are the same. Whether you're a man or a woman, the solutions are the same. And I've never liked it. I've never liked that seeing everything through a gendered lens. And that I looked up the Wheel of Power, and there was a lot of gendered lens in that Wheel of Power. Hi there, Angela. How are you? And so with that, I was telling her, like, we know shutting down is different than not collaborating. And of course, also, we don't recommend anyone goes to couples counseling with a narcissist or abuser. That's number one. But sometimes what happens is people wind up going before they realize what it is. And then they realize, oh, wow, when they're in it, then it turns to crap on them and they don't understand it. But we made that video to help the other therapists, etc., to see a way they can figure it out. Is that the only way to figure it out? No. Like what I would also do, I would ask them to describe their conflicts, and I would say, talk about your conflicts at home. How would you talk about it? And it's going to come out. Like how it is going to come out. The abusive person is going to be a certain way, and the victim is going to be a certain way. Ellie, how are you? And so those are ways that we know what we're looking for with that. And they're like, no, you need to look for who controls the money, who controls the power. It's like, that's the obvious stuff. Like, but in this day and age, I think that happens less and less because most people work now. Like both people are working. It's more uncommon than not to have just one person in charge and the other person not working at all and trapped. It happens for sure. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I think in a lot of other situations, both people are working. It's good to have a good community here. Ellie, what did you think of the interview with Kelly? And Angela, what did you think of it? I know you were there for some of it, but not all of it. And also, Ellie, I was telling them before that Marcella from Beyond the Bruise, she's going to come join us maybe once a month. I'm going to ask CC to do the same. I'm going to ask Christian to do the same. And also Shadow DeAngelis. He's a cool dude. He's also friends with Christian. I would love to have him on, but I don't feel like he doesn't say yes to appearances for some reason. I bet you they were. I couldn't tell because it was TikTok, George, but they're like, I'm a therapist and you guys are just wrong. This is the wrong answer to look for collaboration. It's like, what are you talking about? The wrong answer. Both can be true. Like it's not just right, wrong. It's all of them are clues to the right answer. And then it's like, okay, we're on the same team here. Everyone wants to find out who's the abuser, who's the victim. And some people get really married to their ideas about it. And they'll say, nope, it has to be the Wheel of Power. There's no other way. Or it has to be this. There's no other way. The other ones people were saying were, oh, you need to look for who the performative one is. The performative one is always the abuser. And it's like, sometimes that's true. I wouldn't be surprised if a victim acted a little bit performative at times because they want to be validated that they're not crazy. I could see that happening too. Ellie says, Jared, Kelly was very impressive and the interview is strong. Very good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. There were certain things that I was going to ask her actually that I didn't even get a chance to ask her about mental bandwidth and some of the other things that people who are on the spectrum struggle with. But we'll have a chance to talk about that again. And there's all sorts of cool things coming up here. I got some special surprises for you all too that I'm not going to let you know until they actually occur. But there's some cool things coming around the corner here. Big things on the channel, let's say. Big things. There's going to be some big discussions. And also, I'd like to know if you guys like the group experiences too. So when I did Dr. Salerno and Dr. Simon at the same time, I interviewed them both. Doing more things like that in the future, maybe too. Yeah, but she's good. She speaks. I'm trying to get Kelly to speak in snappier form because she's used to just kind of going on TikTok. I said, Kelly, for Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, you got to give some snappy answers to give me some clips. Yes, Bear. People struggle with that. People really struggle with more than one thing being true at the same time. Another big example of that was when I had a video about when the narcissist says they want to be alone, what they'll do. Because when a narcissist says they want to be alone, it usually means they have another source of supply that they want to go cheat with, and they don't want to spend time with you anymore. And then some people were saying, no, but I really want to be alone. I just wanted to break up with someone. And it's like, well, if you're not a narcissist and you weren't doing those things, then this video doesn't apply to you, because more than one thing can be true at the same time. I'm talking about when a narcissist says, I just want to be alone. Usually that's how they're going to break up with people. And then they're going to go cheat or drink or go on some sort of binge and do whatever they want. That's what they do. But other people were like, no, I wanted to break up. I really wanted to. It's like, well, then it doesn't apply to you. You weren't a narcissist and it didn't apply to you. So you shouldn't be upset about this. But they just were having a hard time with, no, both of those can be true. A narcissist can say they don't want to be alone, and those things are true for them. But for a person that's not a narcissist, that truly does want to be alone, that's a different story. To me, it's a common sense, but for other people, that's the thing about being a creator. You realize the things that you took for granted, other people don't. And you really have to explain it very clearly. Jared, you both can get valuable clips from the interview. Oh yeah, for sure. There's plenty. I talked to her for almost 4 hours. There is something up for sure when they want to be alone. Yes. If a narcissist says they want to be alone in a romantic relationship, you can be pretty sure they don't really want to be alone. You can be pretty sure they want to go be with somebody else. That's what you can be pretty sure of. Because a narcissist almost never truly wants to be alone. They're not very good at being alone because they need that constant source of supply. They need the constant sources of admiration and attention. Without it, they wither. And then they get really depressed. So you're not going to see them be alone for too long. And if you do, they're going to be really depressed, or they might escape to drugs or alcohol or something, but they're not going to be a happy camper. We'll put it like that. So there's all sorts of clips there, Ellie. One's going to be about if narcissists target autistic people. Another one, the differences in empathy, because there's autistic people that can appear like they have impaired empathy sometimes, but I think some of that's because it's just they don't understand. And when someone doesn't understand what's going on socially, it's going to be harder to show empathy if they're not sure what's going on. That's another big one. And again, Sam Vaknin talks about that too, where he says narcissists have performative empathy, which it appears like they care. They can demonstrate things and act it better sometimes. The autistic person often has empathy. They just have a harder time showing it. But so Sam Vaknin was talking about that paradox. The autistic person has it, but struggles to show it. The narcissistic person doesn't have it, but they are better at appearing like they have it. It's a tricky thing. And you should all watch my friend Melanie Amadine. She interviewed Sam Vaknin about 4 years ago now, and they talked about this very subject, Asperger's and narcissism. I like 3-people panel. The 4-person panel feels overwhelming from what I've witnessed. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do 4. That would get out of hand. 2, 3 is enough, I would say. 3 is a max. Angela says, I disagree with her about what she said. It doesn't matter if you are an autistic person or not. It's impossible for everybody to know if the man who is love bombing you is a narcissist or a normal guy. Okay, I mean, that's understandable. She had said, for those who don't remember or know, she was talking about for an autistic person, it's tough to tell if they're being love bombed or not. She said they just can't tell. To which I would say they couldn't tell before, perhaps, but once you know, then you know. Like, I think the awareness empowers you either way. So you didn't know before, but then once you learn about narcissism, you can know. And just like Angela said, people can get blindsided either way. whether they're a neurotypical or a neurodivergent, it doesn't matter. Both of them can be blindsided, that's for sure. So I agree, Angela. Like I said, when I have guests on, I don't always agree 100% with what they're saying. Sometimes it's just not appropriate to call them out on it instantly. Other times I think it is, if it's egregious enough, but sometimes I'll let them go. So when Christian was talking, for example, I think there was a couple things he said I didn't agree with, but he was on a flow, so I wasn't going to interrupt him. I didn't want to interrupt the flow. Awareness does empower you, I agree. Yes. So whether someone's autistic or not, empowering is always a good thing. Awareness is a good thing. Angela says, all of us need to know a guy for a long time to find out the truth. The truth comes out in the wash, they say. They also say lies have an expiration date, but the truth is timeless. That's another one. Because people that lie, they have to remember their lies. And sometimes it's difficult to remember your lies. So generally, though, I would say about love bombing, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. That's a good one. And if everything seems like they're exactly like you, the mirroring is too similar, that's another one. But another one is, just because they're not mirroring you exactly doesn't mean it's not love bombing. There's other versions of it too. It doesn't have to be just that one way. There's other versions of it as well. But for other versions of it is, it might just be liking similar music, but you might not be 100% the same. Because maybe a narcissist, they watch this content and they realize, oh yeah, I shouldn't mirror them exactly. I should make sure there's a couple differences just so they don't pick up on it. Thank you, Jolly. Narcissists are never going to show their flaws at the beginning. Of course, this is true. I think most people, though, are going to try not to show their flaws right away, right? People in the beginning are probably going to be on their best behavior. And then as time goes on, though, people get more comfortable with one another. Then you start to see the real them. Then you realize, oh, yeah, okay, this is how they really are. And time is key. And a lot of this is also compatibility too, especially today. People that aren't compatible, they're not going to last too long. Well, it depends. I would say the honeymoon period lasts how long? 6 months? 3 months? 9 months? I mean, I would say this. 1 year is what it takes to truly get to know someone. And you have to spend a lot of time with them in that year too. You got to see how they are throughout all of the holidays, in many different situations, conflicts, disagreements, all sorts. When you do that, you get a good idea. But even so, covert narcissists can kind of wear a mask for a while, a lot of times. But again, there's going to be clues usually. And if you know what clues to look for, even the best covert narcissist isn't going to be able to hide it forever. It's going to pop out because, after all, they still have a disorder. If they're disordered, they have the narcissistic operating system. It's only a matter of time before they act out on that narcissistic operating system. And maybe they act out by giving you a silent treatment. Maybe they're passive aggressive. Maybe they guilt trip. Maybe they play the Eeyore routine. Maybe they get really angry at you for calling them out. Any of those things could be true. Angela says, narcissists are going to abuse you at some point. The red flags are going to show up. I definitely agree. Bear says, if you have ADHD, you look like you're love bombing, but you're not. They are genuinely interested in you. And I guess what I would say to that, Bear, is people have to trust their gut. And you have to get to a place where you do trust your gut, because that's what happens in a lot of abusive relationships. People don't trust themselves anymore. They don't trust their gut. But part of the healing process is you get to a place where you do trust your gut now. George says, people will tell you who they are. You just have to listen. I 100% agree. Because narcissists do tell on themselves. And most narcissists are just not that slick with it. They're going to say some stuff. I hear them say things like they're crazy a lot. They might say they're bipolar, or they might say, what else should they say? They might say there's something wrong with them. I don't know. Like there's certain things they might say that should raise your spidey sense a little bit. And those are the things to not ignore. They come up. But like when someone, and this is what happens in the beginning, people that maybe aren't happy on their own in particular, they're like starved for love. They have a hungry heart, as Bruce Springsteen would say. They're more likely to overlook some of that stuff because they don't want to be alone. And sometimes this happens in the relationship too. They don't want to be alone. So they think, well, I'll put up with some of this stuff. I know it's not good, but I don't want to be alone. And usually, though, it's not that direct. They have a story they tell themselves that has that same result, though. But they'll say, I need to fix this other person. Why can't they just understand? Why can't they just get this relationship right? They'll be very hell-bent on getting that other person to change. But in reality, if you're hell-bent on getting someone else to change, that's not a good relationship for you. That's just not going to go well. Angela says narcissists have the same language and behaviors. You need to pay attention. Yes, they do. Christian said narcissists use language not to describe reality, but to create their reality. And the gut, it's very important to trust your gut, Bear. I can't stress that enough. But for some people, and even when you're single, right, whether you're in a relationship or single, being able to be alone is a huge thing. If you can be happy on your own, happy and single, you have a fulfilled life between your friends, family, hobbies, career, that is how you become narcissist proof. Those things are like a narcissist repellent. They're not going to like that very much. But what the narcissist does like is someone that they think is a little bit vulnerable. The hungrier the heart you have, the more vulnerable the narcissist might think you are. And again, this isn't to blame any victims. It's just a cold, hard truth bomb, really, where if that's the way you are, now you're at risk. And I don't want people who follow me to be at risk. I want them to be empowered. And it's understandable. Bruce Springsteen's also correct. Everyone does have a hungry heart. But how do we deal with it? I think there's other ways to let out our hungry heart. It doesn't always have to be in a romantic relationship. There's friends and there's other ways to satisfy that. And it's not going to be the same. Nothing's the same as a romantic relationship, but still. Those are the things to pay attention to. And also, when people are in a relationship, that's when people usually reach out to me for consultations. Often what will happen is they know what they should be doing, but then they have a reason why they don't. They convince themselves, oh, I need to do a couple session with them. And to which I say, no, that's not really what you need. It's not going to change a thing, but they think it will. And they'll just get hell-bent on and it's just the trauma bond, right? Or they'll be stuck on blaming themselves. I'm really the problem. I deserve to be treated the way I did. And it's like, no, you didn't. You didn't deserve that. And the one person was, oh, I hit them. Like, okay, that's not good. But when they beat the crap out of you after, that's much worse. If you're a woman who hits a guy, that's not good. But then if you get your ass beat after, like that's still worse. But some people, when they're in the trauma bond, that trauma cognitive dissonance, the traumatic cognitive dissonance, as Dr. Salerno would say, really gets in the way. Being alone and happy is a superpower, Bear. To be content in that way, you're unstoppable. That to me, that's the number one narcissist repellent, being okay on your own. Angela says, narcissists don't have empathy and they don't care about your feelings. That's a red flag while you're dating. Correct. Jolly says, I haven't dated in years and I'm happiest alone. This is my time now. Hey, I love it. I love to hear it. Because now you can do whatever you want. It's like, oh no, I'm single. What do I do? Oh, I can do whatever I want. Whenever I want. How terrible. But that's the other thing now. So my problem now is I've been so used to being alone. I would probably struggle to be in a relationship again because I'm just so used to not being in one. And when you're not used to being in one, that becomes your normal. Your normal is not being in a relationship and then having to adjust your life to someone else's presence and kind of being responsible to them. That's a whole different set of struggles. That would be my struggle now, is learning to like let somebody in a way that works for both of us. It's tough because once you've been single for a long time, it's hard. It's hard because you get used to it. Just like with other people, they're used to being in a relationship. So when they are single, they feel like a fish out of water and they can't wait to get back into a relationship. Angela says, you can't be alone forever if you are a woman and you want a child. 1000%. Correct, Angela. When I interviewed Dr. Taylor Burrows and we went over Sadia, she was, I think, in her late 30s and she had a career as a psychologist, but she decided to drop out or to focus on finding a man because she wanted a kid. And I think it was correct of her to do that since she wanted a kid. She realized, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be able to find a man more than likely if I'm constantly doing this, this, and this. I have to like make it happen. And she did. And I give her credit for that. She put the action steps needed to get what she wanted. For a lot of people, they wouldn't like that. Jolly says, yes, Angela, I'm an old lady, 63 years here. That's not that old, Jolly. This is my time. Hell yeah, Jolly is right. My dad is 64 and my mom is 65. I think my dad is not even 63 yet. His birthday is November 14th. I think he was born in 1961. So I think he'll be 64. But they had me young. All right, so my mom had me, 25. Nowadays, that would be considered young. But back then, it really wasn't. I hated having a curfew. Yes, letting someone in is hard. Yes, it is, especially when you're used to not. But again, so what I also think is when you're compatible with someone, those issues aren't as big. But if you're not compatible, then even the smallest things will turn into a disaster. When you're not compatible, the molehills turn into mountains. And that can be every little thing. And then everything crumbles from there. But if you're on the same page, you'll be able to manage. What I find for me is I meet people from all over now because of what I do, but not everyone's close to me. Not everyone's within physical distance. So that adds another layer to it. And I have a lot of friends. I just don't see. I talk to them a lot, but there's a lot of people I don't see. And there's something different about in-person interaction. Most of my interaction is all online now. It's all words, voicemails, voice notes. Angela says, when you are in your 40s like me, you are constantly looking for candidates, especially if you want kids for sure. Candidates. How are the candidates stacking up out there, Angela? What do you see? How do you see the candidates stacking up? Probably a sorry lot if I had to guess. But then again, you never know. It depends on where you're looking. I know a lot of women say it's a sorry lot, and I hear men say it's a sorry lot. And it's like, well, which is true? I think it's important, though. There's a lot of men, they can gravitate towards the wrong spaces, and then what they focus on expands. If they think they only focus on the women who are not so good, That's all you're going to find. In your 40s, you are almost in desperation mode. Well, if you want a kid, yeah. I mean, there's no getting around the time aspect of that if you want a kid. If you don't want a kid, then that's a different story. I mean, compatibility really is number one. Outside of the personality disorder topic, compatibility is everything. And I think some people have more generic personalities, and so they get along with more people. Other people are a little more of an acquired taste. They're not going to be for everybody. That's kind of how it's been for me. I'll get people that I don't have connections with everyone, but I've had good connections with fewer people. That's just been my mode because I'm not a constantly social person. There are some people that are constantly social, always around people, always doing things. That's never been me. But for some people, that's their thing. They're always inviting friends over. There's always people in the house. There's no time alone. That's why I don't like that, because I need breaks from people. I need to recharge on my own. So that constant being around people all the time, that just wasn't me. But some people, they really love those groups. There's like a group of people. People are always around. They're eating dinner together, doing things together. I've only had that in small doses, and it's good for a while, but I also move through friend groups too. Alex, how are you? Angela says, when you want to share your purpose and values like me, it's hard to find Mr. Right. Well, I know some of the issues you're talking about, Angela. So I'd say, are you on Christian Mingle? Did you go to church? That's weird. Bear says, Victorian bedtime stories on Spinster is awesome. What's Spinster? Like the spinster being an older woman? Or is that something else? Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't like people over. I don't like people over like that. My home is my sanctuary. Yeah, I mean, I'm that way too. And I think it's just gotten worse over time for me because that's just my normal now. My normal is like that. If my normal was something else, maybe it'd be easier. Better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies, they say. But, if I was always around it, I would probably find a way to adjust. But I've always been the kind of person where I don't want to be around people all the time. Some Christians are fake, but I would like a Christian as a husband for sure. Yeah, you always got to watch out for the fake. You got to watch out for the fool's gold, as they say. Especially in the religious community, there's probably a lot of people that want to play a game with it. Especially now with online, there's a lot of people gravitating towards the born-again Christian space. There's a lot of women doing it. I see a lot of women on Instagram wearing like the mildly revealing clothing, talking about being a born-again Christian. It's like, what is this? Is this true Christianity, or is this a thirst trap? What is this? And there's probably a male version of that too. It's just a little bit different. There was a guy named Pastor John I was going to invite on here. He's a little more political, and I think I disagree with him on a bunch of things, but it would be an interesting conversation. Just older women in general. If you are on a Christian, you can't have a Jewish husband, in my opinion, but some people are very open. I mean, here's the thing. A lot of Jewish people, they like to stay within, what do you call it, a race. They like to stay. And Japan's that way too. Indians are like that too. So it's a common thing. It's not really acceptable for other white people to do it though. But other people do it. It is a thing. It's less prevalent now maybe than it was, but in some groups, that's still how it is. They don't want mixing. Spinsters were upsetting the community because they didn't want to get married. You mean overall the community? I mean, here's the thing about that, right? If enough people are unhappy, there's Dan Carlin had a podcast. An episode was called What About the Losers? And he was talking about the losers in the economic world. But there's also losers in the dating world too. And most of the losers are men in the dating world, just by average. Most of your ancestors are women because a woman is more likely to reproduce. There's a fair amount of men who just never reproduce. And they're just the people that they die out. And they die out sometimes because of war. They die out because they didn't have the resources to provide for a family. They didn't have the options and the availability to get married and have kids. So if the group of people that are unsuccessful in the dating world gets big enough, they can start causing some problems for everybody. And I think we're going to see that coming up here soon because there are more unmarried people than ever. I think there's more single people than ever. And there's a growing black pill community now as well. And the black pillars, they're not necessarily good for society, which is why the conservatives don't like them. Now, the black pillars will tell you they're just doing what's best for them. And maybe they are. Maybe they are doing what's best for them. But other people, like the conservatives, they don't want that. They want people to be joining hands with everyone else. They want everyone who's a single mother to be getting married. And if all the black-pilled folks, if enough of them say, screw this, then all of a sudden they're not getting married now. And they don't like that. And the other thing you see happening is there's a lot of guys that are successful and maybe they're attractive or tall or whatever, and they have a lot of choice now. They have a lot of sexual choice. And their issue is they don't want to settle down. You see that a lot too. And the conservatives don't like that either. They didn't want to risk dying during childbirth and being someone's maid. They liked being single. I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, right now you'll see people say they don't want to bring a child into the world because of climate change or whatever it would be, right? And a lot of people a lot of women are afraid of the world turning into the Handmaid's Tale again. They're all afraid of that. Women are very picky nowadays. Most women are princesses without castles. Like Maid Marians or Daisy. There are some. I mean, here's the thing. The average woman has way more options than the average man. So the average woman, she has to sift through the options. All she has to do is have a Facebook account, Instagram account, get on a dating site, all sorts of attention. Now, it doesn't mean that's good attention. It doesn't mean they're good prospects, but they're still prospects. Men, they can be silenced. Men can get silenced because the man, you have to interact. You have to put yourself out there. And some guys just don't. Some guys just don't. You can be picky if you are young. Yeah, I mean, I think as humans, though, I think it would be good, like a happy medium, right? Nowadays, there's a lot of women who put their career first, and they don't even start looking for a husband until they're 30. And that's already cutting it close a little bit. I think if you have your kids in your mid to late 20s, that's probably perfect if I had to do a happy medium. I wonder if the spinsters were on the ASD or lesbians or both. There's probably some of that for sure. Definitely. I mean, because some spinsters, there's many reasons for it, right? Just like there's many reasons for guys that are incels. A lot of guys who are incels, 30% of them, according to William Costello, are on the spectrum. Others might just not be as attractive, but there's reasons. And the same can happen for women. They can be on the spectrum, maybe not as attractive. You have a lot of options if you're superficial. True. A lesbian spinster makes sense. These women had money and didn't have to play the role. They genuinely loved the freedom and attaining on education. Yeah, I mean, there are some women who have just said screw men, and so then they do their own thing. And there's a fair amount of people I see doing that. I see them on Instagram all the time. And usually these women are like 35 to 55 ish, and they're just doing their own thing. If you are superficial and desperate, you can be with anybody, including narcissists. You know what I mean? One thing you can say about narcissists is they never seem to be without dating partners, especially when people are younger. And many spinster teachers, that's good. They had a purpose in life. And as long as the men who are the male equivalent of spinsters, as long as they have the same thing, it's great. Like a nun, like a woman could be nun, or the men who are priests, right? Basically, they're almost spinsters. Although, unfortunately, they're not. And a lot of priests get themselves into a lot of trouble, unfortunately. To which I would say that's why priests should be able to get married, because it's a pretty big problem. It's been a pretty big problem in the Catholic Church, that whole thing. It's not good. Not good. But I mean, the dating stuff's hard. Like with me, I have to get myself into a good financial position to even be in a position to like be dating and doing anything, because dating's expensive. Let me tell you, you can't even leave if you want to go out to eat with a woman. 100 to 150 bucks right off the pop. Unless you're doing coffee or getting a smoothie or something, you're going to be spending money, man. And life's expensive right now. And I've been trying to make this whole thing work. That's why I'm focusing more on YouTube right now, because with coaching consultations, the problem with them is they're just not as consistent. And in the narcissistic abuse space, there's a lot of people who are just broke. And when people are broke, that's not necessarily good for business. But when you get paid for making the content on YouTube and Facebook, that really helps. They subsidize me to do this. I would never say screw men. They might hesitate towards marriage. Good. I'm not a fan of the men or women who say screw the other. And there's a fair amount of both who do. There's a lot of women who are pretty misandrist, and there's a fair amount of men who are misogynist. Do you need to be rich to try to find your soulmate, Jared? Not rich. I would say you need to be stable, financially stable. Because it's just hard. It's hard if you're not. Not impossible. I will not say impossible, just more difficult. If you have money, you have options. Generally speaking, yes. So if you're a guy who's wealthy, you'll have some attention. Doesn't always mean it's going to be good attention. Doesn't always mean that man's great. But given every other variable is the same, a woman's not going to be choosing the poor guy, more than likely. Every variable is the same, the wealthy guy gets chosen. LOL, Angela knows the answer. And because that rich is one thing, but stable is another. That's different. Money can't buy love or respect, but I would be willing to fight for stability with the right person. Yeah, I mean, and here's the other thing, Angela. I say that, but at the same time, I also know the people that I'm close with, that wouldn't be an obstacle. Like if you get along well enough, a lot of those other variables that people think about, they no longer matter. 7 dates of no sex is the magic period. 7 dates is a long time. But again, also, like, if I'm a friend with somebody first, that's not a problem at all. Then, honestly, the problem would more so be trying to see them in a sexual way after that. That can, like, if you have someone you're seeing as a friend for so long, for me, it can be difficult to turn that into sexual, which I think is the opposite of women sometimes. Women, they're not into sexual right away a lot of times, but building up enough connection and rapport, then all of a sudden they want to be. But for me, that can be a little different. But it just depends. Because men are so much more, I think, lust oriented than women are as well. I think you ever heard the expression men love with their eyes and women love with their ears? That is fairly true. Not 100%, but fairly true, I'll say. But it just depends. Just depends. But to wrap this episode up here into a bow in a second, we Christians wait until marriage to have sexual relationships. End of the history. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I applaud people that do that. Very few people seem to do it now. Most people are having some premarital sex. Most people have lived together with someone before they're married. But here's the thing, there was a lot of rules back in the day that they weren't for nothing. But I think my generation and younger said, you know what? Screw those rules. I don't want to be controlled. But they kind of missed out on the wisdom behind some of those rules. Because you learn each other. Well, for sure. I mean, you really get to know someone as your friends. I think these days, especially with the advent of all this pornography, people want to be sexual instantly sometimes. And there's this temptation to want to instantly go sexual. And it's like a different thing. That kind of sexual energy is different, I think, than a healthy sexual union. Is always unhealthy? Perhaps that's up for debate. Well, for people that I've seen, a lot of people aren't going that long anymore, I don't think. Now, Marcella told me 3 months. I think that's what she says she does. Is it true, though? I don't know. People say a lot of things. It doesn't always mean that's what they follow through on. I got that quote from a guy, surprisingly. Yeah, nothing surprises me. I mean, was it a Christian guy or something? Probably. Probably some sort of spiritual oriented dude. You can learn all about sexual relationships after you are married, but you better hope so. You better hope you have some sexual connection there, because that's the other thing that I hear both men and women say. You want to make sure you have sexual connection first. George says 3 months is BS. Like I said, she said it. Doesn't mean it's true. A lot of people say things. Like a lot of people have a checklist. And for some people, they really mean it. And for other people, they just don't. And that might sound cynical, but I've been around the block. I've seen a lot. People talk. Talk is cheap, they say. Actions are real. But like I said, to put this on a bow here about all the kinds of narcissists, covert, overt, there's cerebral, somatic, spiritual, religious, self-righteous, communal. What else? That's pretty much it. But the covert can be any one of those varieties. Oh, and malignant. We can't forget our friends, the malignant. And the malignants, they're the ones that have antisocial personality disorder traits. They're the ones that are going to be a little more sadistic. They're going to be the ones that are a little more criminal in nature a lot of times. Right? The sexual connection is important in relationships. It is. I mean, because without the sexual component, what are you? You're just friends. And you want something to be special when it's like that kind of relationship, because that's, to me, part of what makes it special. That's part of what makes it special, that the other people aren't getting that. Oh, for sure. But that's the beauty of live streams, Jolly. We can wander far from the original course. We wander off the beaten path here. Why would you want to have casual sex with the wrong partner? Well, For men, I can tell you why it is, because for men, there's this hard wiring in you where like you get motivated to really have sex and it feels like you accomplished something. Even if it is just a casual thing, it feels like an accomplishment. Because unlike for women, it's not really an accomplishment to have sex because it's easier for them to do so. It just is. But for men, not so much. That's why, like, there's female prostitutes, but very few male prostitutes for women. There's a reason for that. Nope, regular guy just likes the anticipation and real connection. Yeah. I don't really like to keep it to a number, but it's like given the right time. And how long does 7 dates take? 7 dates in a month? 7 dates in 2 months? It's hard to say. Casual sex with a narcissist isn't an accomplishment. Well, they say sex with a narcissist can feel like a robot, like you're with a soulless robot. Sort of like how if you kiss a narcissist, it feels like you're kissing nothingness. That's what I've heard. And that's my experience with the one woman. It's like they're LARPing. They're LARPing emotions. Now, for other people, I've heard them say it was great. So, again, back to the point of the video, it can be different. It can be different depending on the type, the kind, and the level of severity. And that was the other part about it. The level of severity is key. So, the severe ones, you're not going to be having any healthy relationships with a severe one. That's for sure. Now, with a less severe one, they actually are probably more frustrating because it can seem like it's possible and you might be good for a little while, but eventually the nonsense is going to pop up again. If you have the narcissistic operating system, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time before the BS pops its head up. Are you talking about your experience with the female narcissist? Yes. So like the robot feeling of like making out with her? Yes. Now for other people, women have told me they've had great sex with narcissistic guys. Other times they said it's awful. Other women will say all narcissistic guys are gay. It's just, and that's not true either, right? Are there some narcissistic guys that are really gay? Sure. Are they all? No. You got to be careful painting with the broad brush. A lot of people love to paint with a broad brush, but that's not what we're about here. We don't paint with a broad brush on this channel, do we? The wizard of radical self respect and his shepherd or his flock of black sheep, they know better than to do that. They know better. Ellie knows better too. Casual sex with a demon can't be good. You know what they say, Angela? They say, chaos is what happens when an angel falls in love with a demon. Have you heard that? I could see it. What are your thoughts there, Ellie? Got her thinking. Got Ellie thinking, which I always like to do. If anything, people will think about things from coming here. That's for sure. Which is good. That's how I want it to be for people here. That's how I want it to be. All right. Well, if you're all still here, make sure you like the video here too. We keep our deepness, no quick judgments. What do you mean your deepness? You mean your depth? Your depth of personality? Casual sex with a narcissist must be horrible. Well, I mean, a narcissist will just use you. Right? They'll use people for casual sex all the time if the woman lets them. And that does happen all of the time. That's for sure. Yeah, so expand on what that means, Ellie. I'm curious. We keep our deep. This has so many different meanings that it could mean. I'm not sure. That we explore human behavior and not close our minds as we learn more. Yes, I'm all about that. Because here's the other thing. When it comes to like rules for sex and dating, when you're truly connected to someone, those things just kind of like they take care of themselves. That's how it's been for me. Merlin was created by a nun and incubus. Merlin the wizard and his little owl and the Knights of the Round Table. Merlin. When were they from? Like the 1200s, the 1500s? I forget. It was an interesting time in British history. Could you imagine having so much history without a hint of electricity? Can you believe it? Chemistry isn't the same as compatibility. Correct. Character over chemistry, they say. You ever heard that, Angela? Character over chemistry? Because chemistry can be the devil's playground. You might just be attached to each other's traumas or wounds, or worse, you had a narcissistic parent and they conditioned you to associate their behaviors with love, and you found someone that seems familiar. Not good. Old Bear, how are you? Divorce tomorrow. Wish me luck. Well, we wish you luck, Old Bear. Hopefully you will break free from that situation. Because anyone who's finally getting divorced, they know, like the Eagle said, Glenn Fry said, so oftentimes it happens that we live our lives in chains and we never even know we have the key. That's pretty true with the trauma bond, I would say. People are in chains. They don't realize it because they're in a trauma bond, but they can break free. All strings will finally be broken. I'm very happy to hear that, Old Bear. Very glad for you to be getting out of there. Sounds like freedom. What are you going to do to celebrate? That'll be interesting what you do to celebrate. The old wizard Merlin. That's part of where these wands come from, you know. Merlin would approve of these wands. So would Gandalf. So would Saruman. Spend the day out with my kids. Sounds like a beautiful day. Good luck, Old Bear. She's got this, Angela. We got faith in her. How about both chemistry and compatibility? That's the holy grail, as they would say. The holy grail would be someone that you find attractive and you get really turned on by, and they can be your friend. That's the holy grail. They're all grown, so having them all together warms my mom heart. There you go. Life goes by so quickly, right, that those moments, people can sometimes forget to have them because life seems so busy, especially for what I do. It always seems like there's some BS to be doing. And I haven't been living as much social life. The right person is your hot friend. Yeah, I agree. Nice old roam the land with freedom. Nice. Oh, I like how we have Bear and Old Bear, as we've had both Bear and Old Bear here before too at the same time. It was surreal. Joel Jackson Brown said, in the end, he said he's aware of the time going by. In the end, it's the wink of an eye. Those songs about time, they get me thinking. So Pink Floyd Time, Jackson Brown, The Pretender, Rod Stewart, Young Turks, all of those songs, they get me thinking about it. Which is good. And I'm glad you have a deep piece about it. That's important. It sounds like you've accepted it long ago. And you're glad to be getting out. Wands are fun. I wondered about what was behind your ear. I'm very happy to help, Old Bear. Hopefully, others are just as much as helped. But the wands, they're supposed to be a reminder to myself and others that the little things in life matter. Because if we can't do the little things right, we're not going to be able to do the big things right. So that's been the reminder of the wands. And life is made up of the little things. People don't think it, but it really is. What are the best places to find a soulmate, Jared? I would say on the path of your purpose and your hobbies. So, whatever they are, whatever you find enjoyment, whatever you get excited about when you talk about, doing those things. If you find someone while doing those things, to me, that's a good place to find someone. I have no concept of time in this classic sense. Well, in the Eastern world, they don't either. In the Eastern world, they're not as preoccupied with time. In the Western world, we are very time oriented. So you must be on time. Do this at this time. Now, now, now. Go, go, go. But in Eastern philosophy, it's the opposite. They value more spending time with others, which in the Western world, not as much. Not the internet, Bear. Wrong answer. But then again, I have met some good people on the internet. I can't downplay it completely. Because there are, like, we can find part of our purpose on the internet too. So there's so many ways to find people with similar interests now because there's so many different ways to online, whether it's Reddit or somewhere else. Would you go on a date with Sadia Khan? Of course not. I'll debate Sadia Khan. I will not go on a date with her. I lose track of time. Small things. Blink 182 agrees with all the small things. Sadia Khan. So I watched a video today. People were saying it's the end of the grifting era. And to which I would say, no. The grifting era is alive and well. As long as there's politics, the grifting era is alive and well. So I think it was just wishful thinking of this creator to say this video. They're like, oh, the millennials and younger, they see through grifters now because they're so skeptical. I was like, what, really? Are they? Or are they just falling for different versions of it now? Would you do? I don't even know if I could do that. Potentially, he might entertain that. Many people find the right partner on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You're not wrong about that, Angela. Yes, many grifters have fallen, but it's still going strong. Yeah, it's always going to go strong. It's always going to go strong. As long as people can be subscribed to a distorted version of reality, grifting will always be a thing because there's going to be people that pander to the people that are subscribed to the distorted version of reality. It just is. And until that's not the case, maybe like dating grifters are going to have a hard time for a minute, but there will definitely be different versions. So I think it was an interesting video, but I just think he's wrong. I think he's definitely wrong about it. What a question, George. Would I do Sadia? Now, I just feel like now that I'm older, I have to have like a little bit of something with them. Like if they're just mean. Now, granted, there are some days, like even in her video with Abba and Preach, I'll admit, she looked a little prettier there and even softer, which was more impressive to me because in many of her other videos, she's very antagonistic, combative, hostile. But in that video, because she was getting called out, you saw a softer, sweeter Sadia Khan there, didn't you? You saw the, I want to avoid consequences, Sadia Khan. But she blocked me. Sadia blocked me. Because people were tagging her on my stuff on Instagram. And they were like, you need to freaking debate her. And I said, I'm down the debater. I'll do it. And then she blocked me. Oh, that's cute, Jolly. Isn't that like MF Kill game. That would be a good version of that. Sadia and then two other people. Something casual with Sadia just because your obsession, Jared. Obsession? That's what other people said too on Instagram. Jared, you're obsessed with Sadia Khan. Now, Dr. Burrows, I think she's even gone harder in the paint than me. She's been going off about this for a while, which is why I had her on the show, because she's been more involved in it. I cared a little bit, but I didn't care enough to really follow through. But I did care enough to make content about it. That's for sure. They're allowed to. I can handle it. You're always... Yes, I know. But she deserves it, doesn't she, Angela? Even Angela will admit she deserves it. She deserves to be called out for lying about her credentials like that, and then calling people broke, fat, and ugly. What kind of professional does that? That's ridiculous. And the more you look into it, the worse it gets. You see, many people have those experiences with her, lying about her master's degree, putting the BHS logo on certificates the BHS does not endorse. What else did she do? There was one more thing that she did that was unacceptable. But all of it was not good. Jolly, they seemed compatible. I've talked to her for a while. We've never met. Known her for a while. Sadia deserves a lot of your videos for what she did. She did. And that's why she didn't say anything to me. She was more concerned about this guy named Goob on Instagram. That's who she mentioned on Instagram or on Abba and Preach's video was Goob. I wasn't quite big enough for her to be concerned. But she was concerned about Abba and Preach. She was concerned about Goob. But, I wanted to make sure I did it right, and I learned a lot from doing that because her flying monkeys came after me too and said they got so mad at me because I got her hourly wage wrong. I got her fee wrong, and they were like, Jared, you can get sued for getting her fee wrong. And I said, all right, I'll delete the post and get it right. Exactly. I was just a jealous, misogynistic hater. That's all I was. Sadia was an angel. Sadia was an angel that's done nothing wrong and is just the victim of Jared's misogyny, hating, and jealousy, and obsession. Can't forget obsession. That's all it was. Now, it is mostly, but here's the thing. Narcissists like negative reactions, but the difference is they like negative reactions they're more in control of, or they can get it into a place in their mind where they think, okay, I got this. So like when that guy, the Brian, whatever, Koberger trial, the sister of one of the people or cousins of one of the people did the impact statement. What she did, the guy could probably frame it in his head as, well, the more upset she is, the more supply I get. She can say whatever she wants, but she's still upset. So he might have been able to frame it that way. But if a narcissist loses control of it, and then they don't have any control of their image anymore, they won't like that. You can be very compatible, but still cannot become a viable couple. That's true. You can force her. That sounds provocative. Angela, you got him talking about her again. I was going to put her to rest, just like with the other self-aware narcissist that's not to be named anymore. Because some people ripped me for doing that too. So I love to hate you and I hate to love you. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But just remember, the opposite of love is not hate. It is indifference. Indifference is what they hate the most. That indifference gives them no supply. Hate and love can both give them supply. And when you put it through that lens, that's why I say the impact statements to the murderer, that's not indifference. Not indifference. Jared is obsessed with Sadia and her potentials. I wasn't going to talk about her for a while. Like I said, I'm done with her. I did the last video with Dr. Taylor. It still did well. That video did well. That video still has more views than both my last two Salerno interviews. Can you believe it? But it did. But I think the internet's getting tired of Sadia Khan. I think she's worn out her welcome. I wish YouTube would notify me for these lives. I have to unlock and re-click the bell. Yeah, do that. Yeah, Dr. Z was pretty cool, right? She'll come on occasionally. She was on Fox News before. I know that. She actually lives close to me. And she said, Jared, we should do one of these in person one day. And I said, sure, Dr. Z, we can do that. She was good. We had a good string of guests recently, I think. Yeah, she knows her stuff. She knows her stuff, and she's a good interview, and she gives plenty of great little clippable moments. I'm always big on that too. So she did. And if you have anyone else you'd like to see me talk to, Old Bear, definitely let me know. We have the game Exposed coming on. I think I told you that. I don't know. Actually, you weren't here when I said that. Did she have her own personal experience with an arc? I think so. I think so. We didn't go over it specifically, but the way she knew it, I think she did. Sorry for making jokes about you and Sadia, Jared. It's all good, Angela. I thought they were funny. It's okay. I can roll with the punches here, you know. It takes a lot to get to me. That's the thing. When you do what I do, you learn how to, especially when someone's like on your team and you know they're not really like trying to hurt you, as opposed to the people that are really trying to do that, which there are some of those people too. So you get used to it. You get a thicker skin, we'll say. It seems like she did her knowledge, felt like it came. Yes, I had that impression as well. So there was something about like the way she talks about it. You can get a sense by how people talk about it, if they've been through it or not. And I think she did. And in my experience, the best professionals have also been through it. So Dr. Salerno, he's been through it. Dr. Z's been through it. I don't think Dr. Ramani's been through it. Narcissists get angry when you make fun of them. You aren't a narcissist for sure. Ah, very good. No, I wouldn't think I'm a narcissist. Like I said, I thought I was borderline for a little while back in the day, but then I realized it was really more of a neurodivergence that was undiagnosed. And then the anxiety that came on top of that. Addiction used to be a problem for me. And addiction stuff can be similar to narcissism sometimes in some people. I've noticed that too. So some of the ways that an addict would get better, I think if a narcissist were to do the same things, they would actually get help. They would improve. But the issue is they just don't. My sister is studying to be a psychologist, and she picks my brain extensively over NPD. You should send her to the channel, Old Bear. Takes a lot to ruffle these feathers. That's damn right, Bear. Between Old Bear and Bear, that's damn right. You should be studying for it. She wants to make sure she can identify one and not be fooled. I got videos about that, Old Bear. Of my simple test for narcissism video. Perhaps not eloquently titled, but it's still true. Yeah, very good. Very good. The professionals that give me grief, I mean, most professionals don't give me grief. Most professionals like me. Occasionally, I'll see one get angry at Dr. Salerno more than me. Addicts use alcohol or drugs as supply. Correct. HG Tutor says it's a weaker supply, but it's still supply. Your sister sounds awesome. She does. Old Bear, never mind your sister. Never mind. So she's studying to be a doctorate, I guess is what that is. I don't know, George. I am well knowledge now. Well, there's so much information about this stuff now that as long as someone's willing, it's here. It's all here for them. All right. With addiction, you really can screw up good things. Yes, you can. I mean, people wind up in jail for life over addiction sometimes. I mean, you get behind the wheel, under the influence, you kill someone, now you're in jail for a while. Having the personal experience is the best education I could get. I would agree with that. Most of what I talk about are things I've gone through myself, like the concepts and what I see. I've seen it personally, which is why I'm able to talk about it in a unique way. So I try my best to not just have super generic content. It's content that's more specific to me. Why are you sorry to Old Bear? Very often addicts find partners with the same addiction. Oh, for sure. For sure. And that's not, I wouldn't say it's a trauma bond. It's a shared trauma or a shared addiction in that case. I can tell you have, Jared. I tend to connect with those who I can tell have lived it. Yeah. I mean, and that makes perfect sense. I always tell people, if you want to get help from somebody, it'd be best if you find someone that has been through it. There's going to be something that comes through that the other ones, it's just different. Because if you haven't been through it, you're just going off of what you read in the book. And what translates in real life is not necessarily what you read in a book. It's different experiencing it versus reading about it. That's what I would say. Former addict, true. Former addict. LOL Bear. I would rather receive advice from someone who's been through it. Big heart. Nope, you changed your name. She wrote heart instead of the heart emoji. Welcome to the chat. You have any questions here before I roll out? Big heart. Big heart. Why don't you have cold hands, warm heart? Yes, I changed it because everybody kept calling me big knobs. That's funny. It did seem that way though. I do agree. That's what I read it as first. I was like, what? It wouldn't have read that way if there was a space, I think. If there was a space, then it wouldn't have looked that way. But when there was no space, it was really hard to tell. That's funny, though. That's funny. All right, everybody. I think it's about time to roll out here. Sorry, you just caught the end of this here, big heart. But there will be certainly more of these. The announcements were the game Exposed is coming on in early October. Grace Stewart, who is a Christian, is coming on Angela. Keep your eyes open for that, Angela. She's coming on Thursday. Although, Angela, you might have some disagreements with her. And who else? I think that's pretty much it. Or my friend Jessica and Marcella from Beyond the Bruise is going to be coming over here once a month. Hopefully Cece and hopefully Christian. So, I'll set the notification bell on so I will be able to catch you next time because I love chatting with you guys. We love to have you here. Ha! You're never late. You're like a wizard, Phil Bradley. Never late, nor early. You arrive just on time. So hit that notification bell, Big Heart, and hopefully you get notified. Although sometimes I guess YouTube doesn't notify even if you have it on. But we're here. Yes. Just say goodnight, Phil. Not hoorah, but say goodnight. Oh, you're very welcome, Ellie. Nope, this is not live, Phil Bradley. This has been recorded. We recorded this yesterday. All recorded. I don't know what you're talking about. It's a figment of your imagination that you're all here. This is recorded. Didn't you know? All right, Jolly Bear, Old Bear, Ellie, Phil, George, Big Heart, New BS, Angela. Who did I forget? No, I don't think I forgot anybody. But thanks for all for participating. Until next time. Have a good night, everybody.